Hi guys, welcome back to the shop and hello to any new viewers or anybody who's newly subscribed. Good to have you on board. Also, thank you to anybody who's left comments or questions. Always appreciate those because when I upload videos, I don't have any visibility on who's watching them or anything like that. So any of the comments, they're well appreciated. Now, today's video is slightly different. It's not so much an instructional video as a sort of a review or a trial and error type video. On my left here, I have my call it emergency compressor. It's a 4 horsepower petrol or gas, if you're in the States, powered compressor. Has a 15 litre tank, which is about 4 US gallons, and it puts out, I think, the spec is about 4.8 cubic feet a minute at 90 psi. Which is generally enough to pump up some fairly big tyres, and I also have used it as an emergency tap into the air brake system on tractors and trailers to be able to release air brakes to get them to move in the event of a breakdown. Now, a friend of mine bought one of these Milwaukee compressors. There are 2 inflators in the Milwaukee range as well, an M12 one and an M18 one. Both of those have a duty cycle, which means that they only run for a certain period of time and then they have to shut down, or you need to shut them down because of heat. And as I understand it, the M12 one runs for about 5 minutes before it gets too hot and to leave it sit for 10. And the M18 one runs for about 20 minutes and then you have to leave it sit for 40, which is a considerable piece of time. So this one here then is it's a compressor as opposed to a specific tire inflator, and it has a constant duty cycle, which means theoretically it can run all the time. Its capacity is a 7.6 litre tank, which is 2 US gallons, and it pressurizes up to, I think, 120 psi, which is about 8 bar. The advantage with this obviously then is that it can run for longer, especially when you're dealing with bigger tires. The inflators will only run for a certain period of time, so obviously the size of the tire that you're looking at is going to impact that. So I borrowed this off him, and what I'm going to do is, this isn't a scientific evaluation by any means, is I'm going to let 2 big tires down on the back of a Manitou telescopic handler, and then what we're going to do is use both of the compressors to bring the tire pressure back up to 30 psi or 2 bar roughly. And number 1, see how quick this does it, then compare it with this one and see, does this do it, how long it takes to do it, and what type of battery power or how many batteries do we need then to actually affect that. The main reason being that I'd certainly consider one of these due to its portability. It's about 15 kg, which is about 32 pounds. Somewhere there, so it's very manageable to both lift in and out of the back of a Jeep or any piece of equipment, whereas this one is at least twice that, and you're looking at a sort of a hernia when you're trying to lift that in and out of something. I even mounted this particular one on a trolley to make it easier to move around the yard, and obviously the trolley adds further weight to it then. And I've also found that if you do stick it in the back of the Jeep, it needs to be lashed fairly securely, because the chances are high, because it's top heavy, that will fall over and you'll hear that glug 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 of leaking petrol. So what we'll do is we'll head out to the yard, we'll let the 2 tires down, and then we'll reinflate them with these 2 machines and just do a sort of a timing comparison. Again, not scientific, but I just thought it might be of interest to anybody considering getting one of these if they're dealing with sort of larger equipment or stuff like that. Okay? Now, after that practical application there, re-inflating the tyres on the telehandler, I have to say, very impressed with this little machine. It's very quiet, very portable. It ran happily for the 12 minutes that it used, or that it took to inflate the tyre without generating any undue heat. Just in terms of battery usage then, there was a fully charged 12 amp hour battery in it, and there was 2 lights left on. There's 4 lights altogether on these batteries, and there was 2 lights left on when I checked it at the end. So used somewhere between half or slightly over half of the capacity of the battery. Obviously, if you're dealing with very large earth moving tyres or something like that, maybe a petrol compressor might be a better option. But for an occasional breakdown or emergency, or just general sort of topping up tyres, this little compressor is definitely a very strong contender. As regards the compressor itself, fairly straightforward. The battery goes in here, on-off switch. Then at the front here, there's a pressure gauge to regulate the output pressure. So if you wanted 30 psi all the time, that gauge will let you do that. On this side then is the air outlet where you connect your tools. I had to make up a little connection to go from sort of a Euro style fitting through to PCL, because all of my airlines are PCL. Just a different size of plug, that's all. There's a little air filter on top of it to make sure that it's not sucking in any dirt or dust. Obviously you can take that off and clean it. And on the back of the machine then, there's a little thumb screw here that you can open to drain the tank if there's any condensation in the tank. So all in all, I think it's fairly safe to say this will be going on the birthday list. Okay, so that's about it now, and just wanted to try this out and see what it was about. If you have any questions, stick them in the comments down below, and until the next video, see you then.